morning, fellow Toastmasters.
Good morning.
I hereby call this meeting of Lake Mary Toastmasters Club 6440 to order. Before we begin, please silence your cell phones. All right, I would like to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Our club mission is to provide a supportive learning environment through which members feel empowered to become better public speakers by developing their competent communication and leadership skills. This morning I would like to introduce our Toastmaster this morning, Mr. Sam Bailey.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Great to see you. We have a couple of things to work on with the agenda, starting out with that we're working with an electronic copy this morning.
Interesting.
I know, it's just a millennial thing. I don't know. So just to run through it real quick with everyone, all of our speeches are 5 to 7 minutes. First speaking, we have Miss Julie Buckery with the Competent Communication Manual, gets to the point. The other side of fear for your title. Second speaker, we have Miss Macarena Torres, also 5 to 7 minutes. With Persuasive speaking, the winning proposal. Ooh, that'll be good. A new way to pay. Then, last but not least, we have Martin Bell, the entertaining speaker, make them laugh. Canadian Dork, Influenza. And then for our Toastmaster, we have Mr. Ernst, General Evaluator, Miss Lori Richards. Then for our first evaluator, we have Miss Julia Kaufman. Second evaluator, Mr. Stephen Morgan. God bless your soul. Then we have third evaluator, Marty, evaluating Martin, Grammarian, Jean, or excuse me, Miss Tora, and then on counter, Jean, and then timer, Tara, I'm mispronouncing it, say it one more time for me.
Carol.
Terrell, thank you.
Just call me Carol.
Terrell, like Carol with the T.
Terrell the two-timer.
Terrell the two-timer, oh, I like that. You know what, that's a great introduction. Why don't you just go ahead and take it off from there?
Join me.
Absolutely.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. My function is to time the speakers, evaluators, and table topic participants to ensure they meet the timing requirements. I will demonstrate the timing lights, which will be displayed as follows. Since each of our speakers have 5 to 7 minutes this morning, at the 5-minute mark, I'll flash a green sign. At the 6-minute red, 6-minute yellow, and then 7 minutes red. For our table topics, we've allotted a minute and a half per speaker, so you'll get a warning if you have 30 seconds in at green, when you're about 45 seconds in yellow, and when you're at the minute mark, you'll get the red card. And then our evaluators have 3 minutes, so green means you have 2 minutes left, yellow 2.5, and then red means you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. And you guys do have access to this electronic copy. All you gotta do is go on to eSpeak, log in, and press agenda if you would like to be able to follow along. But please make sure your cell phones are actually on vibrate. Next up, introducing our hour counter. Here we go, Mr. Gene.
All right, Jean.
As all counter, it is my function to listen for the use of filler words such as you know, so, okay, and other audible pauses as fillers. I will be noting if members perform any double clutches, which means to say things twice, such as this means, this means. Finally, I will also include things which might be distracting, such as lip smacks. I will present my report during the evaluation portion of the meeting.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have a Marion, Miss Tara.
As grammarian, it is my function to select a word of the day to help build members' vocabularies. Each member, when called upon to speak, is encouraged to use the word of the day. Other members may gently rap on the table when they hear the member use the word. Today's word is superfluous, which means unnecessary, especially through being more than enough. And I thought it was superfluous for us to use paper today, so that is also electronic. So write it down.
Superfluous.
And I chose the word too. In addition, what's the definition? Unnecessary, especially through being more than enough.
Overkill.
Yeah, like overkill.
Overkill. In addition, I will be listening for any errors in grammar as well as excellent word selections. I will also be noting any colorful thoughts or phrases members might use. During the evaluation portion of the meeting, I will present my report.
Thank you. Yes, it may have been a little superfluous to have both an electronic and a printed version of the agenda today, but hey, we'll work with it. And as far as our actual theme of today, it is New Year's resolutions. This is the half-year mark. Oh, wait, we're now at, yes, the laughter coming across the room. You have all failed, evidently. Has anyone managed to keep any of their New Year resolutions? Anyone at all? Thank you. Mine was a little bit different. I actually made a list of goals that I wanted to get done for the year. So I technically can't fail them until 2017. So I'm still good right now. For our first speaker, we have organized speech to achieve general specific purposes. Reinforce purpose with the beginning, body, and conclusion. Project, sincerity, and conviction. Control nervousness. Strive not to use notes. Our first speaker, please help me give a warm welcome with Get to the Point, the Other Side of Fear, Miss Julie Bucker. Absolutely. I can do that. Might have to work it out.
You're techno geek, you can do it.
Absolutely.
Good morning. We're going to have an introduction to fear. I've asked a couple of my colleagues to read some quotes on fear. Lori?
He who has overcome his fears will truly be free. Aristotle.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, 32nd president.
Do the thing you fear the most, and the death of fear is certain. Mark Twain.
I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Nelson Mandela.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guest, we're going to talk about fear this morning. And fear, by its definition, is something we all experience, is it not? It's intangible, we can't touch it, we can't feel it, but its presence is everywhere. We sense it in our bodies physiologically. Many of us who stand up here feel the butterflies and have a little jitters, and we do techniques to calm us. But on the flip side of that, we're going to look today at enabling you to take away from here 4 ways to identify the behaviors that are coupled with fear for most of us. So let's look at what fear is. Fear, by definition in psychology, is a sensation that tells us we are perceiving a threat. If we are threatened, our body and brain go into motion. I call it the body-brain door. A sensation comes through, and the body has those flutters, those butterflies, or in case of threat to our body, it's a frozen watchfulness, because we perceive a serious threat. And on the flip side, the brain is working, taking in electromagnetic systems, trying to process those into some logical order, and then voila, it's plug and play. We either fear or flee, and that is our very first item that we're going to look at this morning, behaviorally. How many of you have heard fight or flight? It's been with us, we understand, since caveman days, correct? So when we fight, we take one position, and when we flee, we take another position. So we're going to look at the other side of fear this morning in our first premise, and that is to fight. And those of you on the side, I can't move my little kindergarten holder here, so if you'll follow me, we'll read the chart for you, for those of you on this side that may not be able to see. When we fight, we adopt the resistance that says, it's not going to work for me. It's not going to work for us. And the way we see that in behavior is we see people resist opportunities at work or at home. We see that people disrupt their schedules for themselves as well as us. We see that people oppose any idea that's offered up as a solution. And we also see that they oppose change. If you know anyone like that, or if you've seen that recently at home or at work, they're fighting. It won't work for me. Secondly, people may flee. They may say, I don't want to really face this, I'm leaving. And the way we do that is we call in late, we call in sick. We may be able to miss meetings and just not show up in general. And many times we fail to take up the opportunities to suggest alternatives at home or at work. The third way we behaviorally face our fear is to surrender. This is where we adopt the poor little me. Oh, it wasn't my fault that I got fired, the budget was cut. Oh, it wasn't my fault, my boss got a divorce and she took it out on me. So the concept of surrender, the concept of fighting and fleeing, are all concepts that we know as resistance, because we default. We don't make a decision to correct the situation. But there's one way that we can, and we're going to look at action. Action is the only way that we have of truly facing the fear, to knock on fear's door, walk through that door, and get to the other side. As Mandela's quote so aptly puts it, we need one characteristic in play to do that. Stephanie? Courage. We need courage, but how on earth do you get that? I mean, we're paralyzed by fear. We resist, we don't do anything, we surrender, we back off. How do we get that courage? Well, a Greek philosopher once said, if we accept the fact that we are all we have to control, we can't control others. I can't control Julia's evaluation this morning. But if we accept that and embrace it, we can't hold two positions in our brain. We can't both fear and be proactive with it. So if we adopt that philosophy that we can only control ourselves, we can move into a position where we look at the alternatives and we decide that we're going to act on the information we have at hand. We do our best set of probabilities that will lead us to success. And finally, at the very end, we walk through that door of fear where real decisions are made. So let's look again at the 4 items that you're going to carry away with you and use at work, use to analyze your adolescence at home. And what was the first one? The first one was fight. Exactly. The second one was flee. The third one was surrender. And the fourth one, the most powerful, the one that gets us where we need to go, is action. Very good, you passed, class. So the next time you're looking at yourself, at your colleagues, think about these responses and know that if you get to this stage, if you can get that courage, you can knock on that door of fear and walk through it to the other side where real decisions are made. Just because that's stick 'em?
1 minute on the clock. Thank you. For New Year's resolutions, people tend to do a lot of different things. For example, the gyms are absolutely crammed January 1st. People may want to become closer with family or start up their own business. What were some of your New Year's resolutions that you had? Do a little reflection on that. And is it still possible for you to get them done? For our next speaker, it is coming out of Persuasive Speaking, the winning proposal. Present a proposal advocating an idea or a course of action. Organize a proposal using the 6-step method provided by the project. A new way to pay. Please help me welcome Ms. Macarena Torres.
Thank you, Sam. New Year's resolution. What does that mean to everyone?
Goals?
Yeah.
Goals, trying out new things, right? Something you've never done before, something that's worth taking a risk. Well, with New Year's resolution, we did start our new fiscal year about a month ago. It was in June when we started our new fiscal year. So New Year's resolution, it's time to try something new. True story. About a month ago, when dues were due, our fellow Toastmaster Ernst, who is our treasurer, was accepting dues and started collecting dues like every great officer does. He started early, which is wonderful because we need to start early so that we can get an award. We need to get a certain amount so we can get an award, a ribbon. So Ernst came to me and I still hadn't paid my dues because I do not carry my checkbook in my purse like my mother used to. And it'll be a sunny day in Seattle before I ever have cash in my wallet. And it's not like I didn't have the money. I had the money, I just kept forgetting. Every week I'd come in, Ernst would say, Mac, do you have your dues? And I would look at him and I would try to avoid eye contact. And I'd say, Ernst, I promise I'm gonna have it to you next week. I promise I'm gonna have it to you next week. And for 3 weeks, 3 weeks, it came to the point where I had to physically go to where Ernst works, which is right here. Luckily, it doesn't work very far. I had to go to his receptionist or his secretary, hand him the check, and I was finally able to pay dues. True story or not a true story?
Absolutely.
So I said to myself, there must be an easier way to do this. How many of you have come in and forgotten your dues and have to bring it in the next day?
Yeah.
Several of you. If any of you haven't, you're either lying or it's going to happen to you sooner or later. So what I propose, the winning proposal, what I propose to you this morning is something that you've seen before. It's not new. It is fast. It is easy and it's convenient. Not just for us, but for you. What am I proposing to you this morning? A card reader. So how many of you have been in a situation where you're either at a farmer's market or, for gentlemen out there, food trucks? And you're standing in line hoping that they accept credit card. When you see the sign that says cash only, darn. Guess you're going to have to miss out or find an ATM. Well, now there is a new innovative way to accept cash for small businesses or even for your own self if you're freelancing, and that's with a card reader. Couple of benefits. Like I said, it's fast, it's easy and convenient. You can do it right then and there. No cash, no check. it goes straight to the bank. Now, a way a card reader works is when it first came out, you had the card reader swipe. All you had to do is sign up for the account, let's say PayPal. There are numerous ways of doing this, but there's the Square, but another one is PayPal. You sign up for the account online, download the app on your phone, it's called PayPal here. Put the little reader on your phone, swipe it, enter in the amount, they sign it, they get to choose whether they want a receipt or not, and you're done. Within a couple of days, the money is in your account. Easy, right? It accepts all major credit cards. You can swipe anywhere, and you can also get a receipt. For example, I need a receipt. And Ernst has to ask me to send him an email to remind him so that he can send me a receipt, because I need a receipt. True or false?
True.
Yes, it does seem complicated, but with this, once you swipe that card, it automatically sends you a receipt. Easy, right? Now, in addition to the swipe, there's also the chip card reader. That is new, and you've seen it in stores. What they do is that you have to pay for. The swipe, once you sign up for the account, they automatically send you a swipe reader in the mail for free. Now, if you want something a little bit more secure, there's the chip card reader that you do have to pay for. And all you do is they send you the chip card reader in the mail once you pay for it, and it's a big honker of a box. It's going to be ancient in 10 years. But it's a big honker of a box. You enter in the amount and you slip the chip in and you're done. There's also the third option where you've also seen this in the commercials. You swipe your phone on top, you just hover, and it scans. That's a third option. But I'm sure that with just Toastmasters, that the chip card reader would be a wonderful, wonderful solution. A couple of cons. Depending on what you use, you do have to pay a small fee, 2.75, 2.5. Some of them will charge you monthly, some of them won't charge you at all. So that's a little bit of research that we would have to do, but the fees are very, very minor. So with this, I believe that it's going to benefit our club. How many of you think it's going to be convenient? How many of you think we're going to have our dues on time? Yes. Everyone seems to be on board, and I feel that this is going to benefit our club. We're going to get dues in a lot quicker. I'm going to save myself some time. Ernst is going to save himself some time, some headaches, and a lot of repetition. Him coming after people, one after the other, trying to get dues in. Budget is going to be made, and I feel that it is going to be a great next step for our club to make. A New Year's resolution, a new year, and it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful time, and something that is really going to take our club forward. So thank you very much, and I hope you all accept my proposal.
1 minute on the clock. Thank you. And I just want to give everyone a reminder of the word of the day, superfluous. It's an adjective, being more than is sufficient or required, excessive, basically overkill. For our next speaker, we have the humorous speech, make them laugh. Humorous speech from own experience. Lord help us. Adopt and personalize humorous material from outside source. Deliver speech making humor effects. This speech would be Canada Dork Influenza by Mr. Martin Bell. Please help me welcome. Welcome. Do you need this?
Yeah, thanks. Good morning, everybody. Zika virus.
What?
Has anybody heard of this?
No.
Apparently, it's a big deal. If you get bit, your head shrinks into the size of your You imagine what this is doing to people. All over the world, people are taking family portraits, holiday pictures, and grandmothers are saying, "Where's Johnny? I can't see his face. Where'd he go?" There's something more sinister, however, more evil. But Zika virus is making the news. Who here is going to the Olympics in Brazil? Of course not. Why would you go to Brazil, Copacabana Beach, enjoy the beautiful sunshine, get the best tan you've ever had in your life, while sipping caipirinhas on Copacabana? Instead, we're all happy to be here, where we're probably going to watch 20 minutes of live action interrupted by 400 hours of CNN and MSNBC talking about Zika virus. Or Donald Trump said this, blah, blah, blah. Hillary Clinton said this, blah, blah, blah. We're all going to enjoy our Olympics. But folks, there's something more evil than Zika virus at this moment, more sinister, and no one's talking about it. And it's going on in Canada. Of course we haven't heard about it. Have you heard anything that goes on in Canada? When was the last time you heard a conversation like this? There's three ladies talking about their holidays. "Oh, I just came back from Rome. It was so beautiful. The history, the culture, the food." Another lady talking, "Oh, I just came back from Paris. Enjoyed the art, the culture." Third lady, "Oh, I just came back from Ontario." And the others, "You went where? You always get to go on the best vacations. I hate you." That, my friends, has never happened in the history of the world. So it should come as no surprise. Going over from northern Maine into Canada, the customs officer asked me and my wife, "Why are you going to Canada?" "Well, we're going on our vacation." His smile turned into a serious manner. "May I have your passport, please?" Now again, my young friend, "Why are you going into Canada?" Oh, my smile suddenly turned all serious. "I'm trying to get away, sir." From what? "Well, you know, those fleshy things that are always being rude to you, cutting you off in traffic, you know, people." Not you people, those people out there, right? "Oh, pass right on through. No line, nobody going from northern Maine into Canada." And 2 hours later, that's when Canadian Dork Influenza hit. My wife and I are in the beautiful town of St. John's. Anybody heard of St. John's? It's a beautiful, quaint, little shipping town on the Canadian coast. Great pubs, nice little bit of history, and in the middle of the town is one of the most beautiful cemeteries I've ever seen. Yes, cemeteries. If you're looking for some serenity, some peace and quiet, some ponds, some flowers, beautiful trees, and again, some peace and quiet for Why would anyone go into a cemetery where there's hundreds of huge graves for all the loyalists that came over from the States to Canada after fighting the Revolutionary War? Our peace and serenity was interrupted with Canadian Dork influenza. And my wife and I left. 2 hours north of the border was not enough. We decided to head 3 more hours into Prince Edward Island. Has anybody heard of Prince Edward Island? Do you know what it stands for? Potatoes every inch. If you like farming, rolling hills, sheep, cows, and miles and miles and miles of sheep and cows and farms. You'll love Prince Edward Island. In addition to that, though, it's the birthplace of Canada. Unbelievable. Charlottetown is where Canada was born. Charlottetown being the capital of Prince Edward Island. So here we are again, my wife and I, getting away from those people, enjoying the serenity of a beautiful park overlooking a Canadian sunset. Gorgeous. With a little bit of history tucked in as a bonus. And that's where it hit. Canadian Dork influenza. Could you imagine our horror at this sight? It's not getting any attention here, folks. It's all about Zika virus. But we have to be careful. Zika virus may or may not be real. But Canadian Dork influenza, if that hits our shores, we are in deep trouble. You may be asking, well, what are the symptoms? The symptoms include a strained neck, always looking down at a 45-degree angle. A little bit of tennis elbow. Just can't move the elbow. And then just aimlessly wandering around and turning in directions and bumping into other people for no reason. And every once in a while, a shout out, "Is that a monster?" Canadian Dork influenza. My friends, yes, Zika virus is getting all the attention this summer. Who wants their head shriveled up in the size of a mosquito? Could be dangerous. But if this influenza hits our shores, folks, America is in trouble. We have to protect ourselves. How do we do it? Well, it would be superfluous of me. Superfluous. Superfluous. What do you do with that? So let's just make it our New Year's resolution mid-year to protect ourselves and our family. Thank you.
1 minute on the clock. Thank you, timer. So with the New Year's resolutions, what's nice about it, especially being mid-year, you kind of evaluate where you're at. Maybe that New Year's resolution, it's gone. Forget about it, it's done. But you can also take this as an opportunity to maybe change it, such as now changing our goal from looking out for the Zika virus to the Canadian Dork influenza. Just things change. But for next up, if you're a public, or excuse me, if you were trying to become a better public speaker, you didn't get a chance today, don't worry, it's coming. You'll be able to fulfill that New Year's resolution. Please help me welcome Mr. Ernst, our table topic master.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow members, and honored guests, New Year's Eve resolutions. 40% of Americans make New Year's Eve resolution, or New Year's resolution for that matter, but only 8% actually accomplish it. I, in the past, have done this myself, and this year for the first time, I actually accomplished my goals so far. Last year, we said for the new year, we're planning to hire an operations manager, which we did January the 1st, and he's still with us. So I can say that for the first 69 years, it was the first time that I kept to my New Year's resolution. So Julia, what were your New Year's resolutions? Oh, I'm sorry, you're testing. I'm so Stacy, what were your New Year's resolutions?
Well, I made the ultimate decision this year not to make any New Year's resolutions. Resolution.
Why are people not keeping to their New Year's resolution? Gus, what do you think that's the reason?
Mr. Topic Master, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. Why are people not keeping to their New Year's resolution? Sometimes it is very superfluous to have this big goal and what you're going to do in the year. Then after the first 30 days, you find out it stinks. To go to the gym, to change your diet, to stick to your club meetings. So there are many reasons that life happens to people. So it comes to a place where you really probably have to be like Stacy. Do not make a resolution. But also it is important you make a resolution and stay with it. For example, my resolution was to stay committed to Toastmasters, and I'm going to keep that. Thank you, Mr.
Alexandra, what was your most important New Year's resolution you ever did in your life?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topic Master. Actually, the most important New Year resolution is the one I made this year. I have been working in telecom for 20 years, and my New Year resolution was to go back to acting. And started fresh this year, working hard, and I accomplished 3 films and one web series. And I continue on my dream, which was my New Year resolution for 2016. So that's
Phyllis, tell me about your New Year's resolution for 2016.
Okay. Well, my New Year's resolutions for 2016 were superfluous, simply because I follow in the path of Stacy, and I do not make New Year's resolutions. But there's a reason behind it. The reason I don't make New Year's resolutions is because I have goals that I set either on a yearly basis, I have year, 5-year, and then my 3-month and 6-month plans. So I'm constantly working on goals and plans and how to keep those things rolling. So I don't find that making a New Year's resolution helps in that cycle, because I'm continually doing them and not just for the new year. Thank you.
I guess it's superfluous to say that we shouldn't ask any more questions.
Next up, we're going to the educational portion of our meeting, in which we will be evaluating the general setup of the meeting, speakers, and any other comments or concerns that we may have for the meeting. Please help me welcome our general evaluator, Ms. Lori Richards. I'm sorry. Yes, first evaluator, I'll just leave this up here with you.
Okay, awesome.
We have Ms. Julia Kaufman, second Stephen Morgan, last Marty Simon.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, welcome. As Sam mentioned, this is the educational portion of our meeting, and as Toastmasters, not only is it beneficial for us to speak publicly, but we need to get feedback, and many of us want the feedback as to how we can become better speakers. Our first evaluator, evaluating Julia's speech, is another Julia. Please welcome Julia Kaufman.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and our guests, and particularly Julia. It's my pleasure to evaluate another fellow Julia. Julia's working out of the Competent Communication Manual on project number 3, Get to the Point. And I asked her before we got started if there was anything in particular you wanted me to pay attention to. And her biggest fear was being superfluous about her content, because she had so much to say. She said, the content that I have could go on for 2 hours and I need to get it down to 5 minutes. What a perfect project to use for Get to the Point. You did a great job. You were able to stay within the time frame. I paid particular attention to your opening, your conclusion, and the body. You had a really strong opening. You started out with providing quotes, and you utilized the audience, so that really captured our attention because we were looking to see who you had chosen and what they had to say, what quotes they said. And your conclusion was strong. Now, in the body, you structured it well. You talked about having 4 points. And then you started speaking about fight or flight. And that's where I got a little hazy, I have to admit, because you mentioned fight or flight, so I'm thinking, okay, 2 things, you're going to fight or flight. And then you talked about 3 concepts, and you talked about fight, flight, and surrender. But prior to that, you were going to tell us 4 ways. So I'm waiting for those 4 things, and then we talked about 3 concepts. And I wasn't quite sure, were that part of the 4 ways or what? So work on, I would suggest to work on clearly defining. Talk about what those 4 ways. They were indeed the fight, the flight, the surrender, and then action. And then just organize that, talk about it, and then what you did is you recapped it very well. And then your conclusion, you wrapped it all up and you stayed within your time frame. And I loved your ending. You said, knock on that fear, walk through it, and that's when real decisions are made. What a perfect topic for Toastmasters, because we all, even 12 years later, I get a little jittery getting an evaluation because that's the most important role or job in Toastmasters, because you want to provide support, you want to provide feedback, and you want to do it in a way that helps the person, your colleague, your member on how they can grow, because that's what helps us grow as well. So well done. I can't wait to hear speech number 4. Thank you.
Okay, and please welcome up to the podium Stephen Morgan, who will be evaluating Macarena's speech. Stephen.
Leave it to the millennial to come and tell us how we need to change everything. Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters guests, and particularly Macarena with our new way to pay. Advocating change, the winning proposal out of the Persuasive Speaking Manual. This is a set of techniques which are very useful and helpful when you want to actually get things to change. And you're going to have the most interesting time because the person you probably have to convince the most happens to be our resident baby boomer. But you did approach it very effectively with the information you were providing. And in fact, you used a perfect rhetorical advice when it came down to describing the cons, the arguments against whatever you're proposing. You brought them up, you said what they were, and you immediately belittled and dismissed them. That rhetorically is how you want to do it in a debate. You want to actually acknowledge they're there, say they're not important, no, and just pass them off. And you did that part very well. Now there are a few things I might suggest though for you, keeping in mind perception. In the fact that you're coming around here and you're saying, what is it that you want to do? And just go, swipe the card reader. The stamping the foot just made it look like you're even younger. That part would have been something you might want to just do it a little bit differently. The suggestions you gave us using PayPal and Square, first of all, I have a problem with PayPal personally, so I'd say no to that. Square I like, that'd be great, but where's Bitcoin? I mean, come on. If you're going to go there, let's go there. The particular argument that you had, you wanted it to be fast and easy and convenient, or as often described as the older ones of us like to say for the younger ones, you want everything to be fast, easy, and now. That argument's going to work great for your peers, but if you're going to argue for some other, older, different audience, you might want to think about some of the other arguments you want to put forward. Although you had some great ones there. I love the description of the hunker of a box you were describing, that immediately ancient in 10 years. You notice how the pace of technology definitely pushes us in that direction. Your conclusion, when you came down to the end, was lacking the power that it needed, in that you were giving us the recap, but only to a certain point. You gave us 2 reasons in that you asked us all if it was convenient, and you asked us if we'd have everything done on time, but you were missing a 3rd point. A 3 should have been right there is what I thought would have been really good. And the particular part is that you were starting to stumble on your words right at that point, and you want the conclusion to be the strongest, biggest push, especially when you're trying to convince people. That one should have been the smoothest and most powerful. But you had the power and the passion. You had the facts backing you, but in particularly that you had the passion and desire to make that change, and it was coming through in the way your body language and your vocal variety. You didn't have to push it, it was coming out naturally. So you clearly had your own emotional state pushing you in that direction, which is what we're going to pick up. That was done brilliantly. Therefore, I'm going to have to say that you had done a great job giving us a persuasive argument for this. But in case you're ever worried about whether or not this will actually happen, don't worry, you've got the advantage. Just play for the long game. We're not all going to be here quite as long. Madam General,
Okay, and finally, this is interesting. Evaluating Martin is Marty. How did that
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters, Madam General Evaluator, guests. Question for you all. Who else in this room could stand up here and go, Zika virus, and get a laugh? In his Make Them Laugh speech from the Entertaining Speaker workbook, the first question is, how do you know that the audience was receptive? Well, I think we all are in agreement and heard a lot of laughter, chuckles, people's faces squinched up even, as to what is he going to say next? So there were plenty of verbal cues and audible cues. Now, I normally will go along, so I will get my superfluous period out of the way right now by saying I've already gone long. What made this humorous? You're naturally funny. You have a funny face. Absolutely, if you've ever watched any of the great comedians, the timing, the delivery, the pauses that you took in between to look around, when you did a quick take over to here and captured that moment. It was funny. You just kept repeatedly being funny. It got a little annoying. The continuity of the story was quite nice. One of the things that I wished for was for you to be able to define, and you did define, what the Canadian Dork Influenza was, but you were at the 5.5 minute mark when you did it. But you held our attention throughout the whole thing. Even though I wasn't sure where you were going, the Prince Edward Island reference was spectacular. I thought it was going to be something else, and then it was potatoes every 20 feet. And you, again, you took your time, And I want to leave you with this. I hoped, but I believed deep in my heart that you probably did say that to the customs person about other human beings. I think we have amongst us one of the better comedic speakers because of the natural delivery and your timing, and I congratulate you on that, and I hope to see the rest of these entertaining speeches. Congratulations.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you, evaluators. In an attempt, now my job as the general evaluator is to just comment on the meeting and give feedback to maybe the...
Technically,
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
okay.
I will be giving feedback to the evaluators, the technical table, and I will attempt to not be superfluous. I was trying to get that in there before I went. Okay, so without further ado, let us get to our technical table. Let's start with our timer. Yay, Carol. Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and yay, guests. So here's our report today. There were very few superfluous seconds on the clock. Julia, you were, Julia, right at 7 minutes, literally 7:00. Macarena, 7 minutes and 4 seconds. But if you take out time for the foot stamp, then it's And Martin, 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Stacy, these are our table topic speakers. Stacy, 14 seconds. Gus, 47 seconds. Alexandra, 30 seconds. And Phyllis, 40 seconds. Then our speech evaluators, beginning with Julia Kaufman, 2 minutes and 41 seconds was your actual time. Stephen Morgan, 3 minutes and 20 seconds. And Marty, 3 minutes and 6 seconds. Thank you, Madam. Let's hear from Jean, our on-counter.
General Evaluator, Toastmasters, yes. Stacy, 1 well during table topics. Sam Bailey, 1 other, I can't remember what it was, and then 2 mispronunciations of Julia Buckley's name. See, I did it. Carol Clean. Kara, 1 stammering over superfluous, which is 1 word. Julia Bucky, 1 well and 1 so. Macarena, 1 1 so, 1 but, 1 other stammer. Martin, 2 wells, 1 but, 2 you knows. Ernst was clean. Gus, 1 so. Alexandra clean. Phyllis, 1 so. Lori Richards, 1 Julia Kaufman clean. Stephen Morgan clean. Marty Simon, 1 but. Though I think that but may have been grammatically necessary. Sorry,
Tara, our grammarian, let us know how we did.
Samuel Bailey used the word of the day once. So is it Julie or Julia?
Julia.
Julia. And you also like to be called Julia. Okay, good. So Julia, I really liked when you said body, brain, door, when you were saying that our bodies and brains go into motion because of fear, right? Martin, you used the word of the day once, and just 3 words for you. Canadian Dork Influenza. That was pretty colorful and I enjoyed it. Ernst, you used the word of the day once. Gus, you used the word of the day once. Phyllis used it once as well. Laura used it once. Julia Kaufman used it once. Stephen, this spoke to me on a spiritual level. Fast, easy now. Marty, you have a funny face. And you also use the word of the day. And Terrell, you use the word of the day as well. And that is my report.
normally are set up, but we had an officers meeting, so you came in when we were kind of rushing about, so we apologize for that. But normally it's usually set up when our guests arrive. We're running out of space, it seems like, so we're probably going to have to figure out a way that we can seat more people in here. But that's a topic for another day. The Toastmaster, you're really comfortable up here, and I appreciate that. The use of the electronic agenda, very millennial. However, for guests, they don't have access to that, so that's not very convenient for them. And for people like me who, I can't remember my user ID and password because it's saved at my computer, so I had no idea. So, but he has his phone under here, and he's like, you can just use it. Well, he's getting like other things on my phone.
Fine, I'll give check on the check.
Where is Carmen?
Blowing up my phone, of course.
So we probably want to have, if we are going that route, have a few just so other people like me can keep in touch or follow along. Ernst, nice way to include those who didn't have a speaking role in the table topics. You started out with Julia and didn't realize that she had a role, so then you moved on. So thank you, that was awesome. And the evaluators always, these are seasoned evaluators, so they were able to give encouragement and to give some good solid suggestions. So thank you very much there. It was a great meeting. We are on time, and I think at this portion of the meeting we would turn it over to do some club business, so I'm going to turn it over to me, to do club business.
Nice transition.
Right? I know, you're like such a pro. We have some guests here, and we are so happy that you came. Barbara, you're returning, and so we appreciate that you're here again. I don't remember if you told us last time how you heard about us. Would you mind letting us know?
Actually, several different people talked about the Toastmasters, and but my boss said that he had come to this Toastmasters, so I
Who's
checked
your
it out.
boss?
Glenn Mather, but he was here, I found out, like 14 years ago.
Stephen is still here.
Well, thank you. We're glad that you made it back again. I hope you'll come back.
Might be bringing more people, so.
That'd be awesome. We would love it. We would love
So
it.
they
We'll
say,
be through.
we'll see it when they show up.
Yeah.
Make sure they bring their checkbooks and their bill form.
Debit card.
Bob, thank you for joining us. How did you hear about us, and what brings you to Toastmasters?
Well, I'm an incoming president of my Rotary Club, and I see Ernst over there, and he was also with the Rotary Leadership Training Program with me. And this is a very interesting club. If somebody sneezes, there's 6 levels of evaluation.
You need to work on your resonance.
Very interesting. So I found it online because I need to upgrade my speaking skills so that the club doesn't kill me as one of the first presidents to be thrown out. So it's a very interesting club, and the topics. This is cool. Right?
We're glad that you're here.
Thank you.
And we do everything we can to prevent murder, so please join us again. And we have Tim back here. Tim, have you visited before? I think
No, this is my first Toastmasters. I guess a past member, Nate Ritter, recommend becoming here. He and I actually joined forces, giving CEU credit classes in the field that we work in, and we gave one last week. I think it went well, but he pulled me aside.
How is that?
So here I am.
We're glad that you're here. Thank you so much for joining us. A couple.
One more. Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, this is Tara's brother.
Yeah, thanks, Lori.
The guest.
Tara, would you like to introduce your brother?
I want him to introduce himself.
Okay.
Always be the first to stand up.
My name is Takeem. I don't live around here. In fact, I live in Washington. And my sister introduced me to Toastmasters. At first, I thought toast isn't bread. But then she told me about Toastmasters, about public speaking, giving speeches, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I did take a public speaking course in college, so I was interested to see what more seasoned public speakers, how they speak, and so I found it very interesting. A lot of things to learn.
Were you offended by Macarena's statement of a sunny day in Seattle as if
It's sunny in Seattle. There's a record-breaking heat wave.
Yeah, I'm from Washington as well.
Were you offended by that
Go
statement?
Seahawks. Yes, I was offended. Washington is beautiful when it is sunny.
Those 3 days.
3 days.
Yeah.
So we have an upcoming speech contest on August 30th. We are encouraging you to compete. It's the humorous speech contest and also an evaluation speech contest. See Macarena or any of the club officers for more information. And we've run out of time, so I'm going to adjourn this meeting and we'll pick it up again next week.
You want to go through the schedule just super quick?
Yes, I would like to go through the schedule. I'm new at this, sorry. Okay, next week we have Toastmaster Phyllis. Are we good? Okay. Speakers, Jean, Gay, Shane, and Gus.
I'm speaking next week?
It says you are.
What's the date next week?
August 9th.
Oh, I thought it was the 16th. All right, I'll be good to go. Thank you.
Table topics is James, General Evaluators, Stephen Morgan. We have evaluators, Martin Bell, Julia Kaufman, and Ernst. We need an all counter, grammarian, Julia Bucky, and timer, Macarena Torres. Everything sound good? Okay, so confirm on Easy Speak, and we'll see you next week. Meeting adjourned.